You might have to give up PTO, but at least you'll get a free meal with every shift. Looking to start a new career at Fogo de Chão? Here's what you need to know. One of the best things about having a serving job is earning tips. It's often one of the perks that draws people to the food industry in the first place. The idea of earning money on the spot based on how hard you work during a shift is amazingly attractive. But at the Brazilian chain spot Fogo de Chão, the swelling excitement that comes with seeing a high percentage gratuity attached to a customer's bill is moot. That's because the server who earned the tip isn't allowed to keep it. At least, not all of it. According to employees on Glassdoor, all tips received are thrown into one big tipping pool. Then at the end of every working day, the money is split equally among the bartenders, servers, and gaucho chefs. According to one employee writing on Reddit, for some workers, this could be beneficial. Chefs would otherwise receive little to no tips throughout their shift. But servers, who have by far the most customer interaction, and are therefore directly tipped the most in other establishments, will likely find their total cut of gratuity to be majorly slashed. That could sting, especially for those extra hard workers who hit more tables in a single evening than do their coworkers. It's a hot-button issue, and one that seems to be highly controversial for Fogo de Chão workers. While employee discounts are fairly common, most restaurants won't typically dish out free food to workers. The Costco food court not only doesn't grant its employees meals, it makes them stand in line with the rest of the crowd just to order food at full price. But Fogo de Chão has stepped up to the plate when it comes to feeding its employees. For many workers, the chain gets this one right. Employees at Fogo are reportedly welcome to a free meal every shift. A current employee of the steakhouse said on Glassdoor, "Great quality free meals, can't complain about that." And it doesn't appear to be just leftovers either. Employees divulge that at most locations, there are virtually zero restrictions on what's up for grabs. One employee said on Reddit, "You get fed anything off the menu for your shifts." Another server did mention that there were restrictions regarding very high-quality meats at their location, but they noted that every other cut, as well as anything piled on a plate from the restaurant's ample salad bar, was free for the taking. If you've ever been to a fancy restaurant, you know there's a bit of pomp and circumstance when it comes to being seated. At Fogo de Chão, it's said that servers must seat customers in a specific way. One steakhouse employee commented on Reddit, "You have to put napkins in people's laps."
Presentation is key. 15 different cuts of meat are carved tableside.
Though it was intended to poke fun, the statement reveals a bizarre rumor that says the chain requires servers to physically place napkins in the laps of customers. In some locations, this slightly odd act rings true. A former employee at a Texas Fogo location explained on Reddit, "As for the napkin thing, I did it, and so did most of the waitstaff." A customer confirmed that their server in Aruba had placed a napkin for them, but other customers said that they had never experienced it. A comment from a Redditor read, "As someone who visits a Fogo once in a while, I have never had anyone put a napkin on my lap. I would find that really awkward." Many in the thread concurred, but the practice doesn't seem to be a hard and fast rule, and you can always make it clear you'd like to handle your napkin yourself if the occasion arises. Christmas is a time of rest for many people, but there are those who still have to clock in on one of the most heavily celebrated holidays in the world. Those in professions like healthcare or emergency services have to stick to their shifts, but sometimes this also includes people in the food service industry. Though there are restaurants that close out of respect for the holiday and on behalf of their workers, Fogo de Chão is not one of them. The Brazilian churrasco house instead focuses on customers who either prefer to dine out with family on holidays or those who don't celebrate the holiday, and it remains open on Christmas Day. Some take issue with the chain's decision, seeing it as a lack of care for its employees. One Redditor voiced, "They are open on Christmas. I saw their valet out in the cold that day. That automatically makes me think they don't care about their employees." To make things more controversial, one employee divulged that working major holidays is part of the employment package at Fogo de Chão, and apparently there's no opting out. The employee posted on Glassdoor that they were forced to work holidays. They literally block major holidays on the request form.
Merry Christmas, you wonderful old belly alone!
Every restaurant has a process in place for preparing its signature dishes. In the case of Fogo de Chão's epic smoky slices of steak, chicken, lamb, and pork, you can't help but wonder how things play out back in the kitchen. How long does it take chefs to cook such massive amounts of meat for the dinner crowd? which is served on an all-you-can-eat basis. Despite what you might think, preparation ahead of opening is actually minimal and requires hardly any meat to be roasted before the doors are unlocked for customers. According to employees, there is a very specific technique utilized by Fogo servers. The employee explained on Reddit, "The only stuff that's actually cooked for a substantial amount of time is sausage and the like. All the other meats are cooked for a couple of minutes on each side, just so the outside layer is cooked." The user went on to explain that a few slices of the freshly fired layer are then cut off the huge hunks of meat and served before the underdone core is brought back to the heat. The whole process is repeated, sometimes as often as 4 or 5 different occasions, until it's all gone. The items which require the most prep are apparently those placed out at the salad bar. One of the good things about building a strong resume is being able to start higher up the ladder with every new job you take. Having experience should mean bypassing many of the entry-level positions you once started in, so you don't start from scratch every time. But that's not the sentiment shared by the higher-ups at Fogo de Chao. According to the admission of multiple employees, hiring managers at the Brazilian steakhouse seem to prefer to start all workers at the entry level, regardless of experience. One prospective employee on Reddit posted under bartenders, "They told me they wanted to start me as a server and eventually work me up into bartending. I have 16 years in the industry, 11 of which have been bartending," laughed in the guy's face and walked out. Another Redditor confirmed this by saying that, while they had been a server and wanted to start as one at Fogo, the chain placed them in its kitchen as a busser. The user stated that even after months of employment, there had been no steps taken by the company towards the promised promotion. The food industry tends to be a great option for working college students for multiple reasons. Restaurants are usually closed in the mornings when many classes are held, and ramp up in the evenings when students are more free. The hours tend to be flexible, and flexibility is good as a student. But for a student who needs plenty of time to study, too much flexibility can cause problems. So Fogo de Chao may not be the best choice for students searching for employment. Workers consistently report over-flexibility when it comes to scheduling, and there doesn't appear to be much of a set schedule at all. One Redditor stated that once you start employment at Fogo, they only let you pick up shifts and don't schedule you. Another user confirmed on a separate thread, saying, "I love my coworkers, but with the hours and impossibility to get a regular schedule set, it's no wonder we've lost so many servers over the summer." Another employee on Glassdoor claimed the lack of consistency had harmed their studies. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average American spends around 34.4 hours per week at work. Given that such a large chunk of your life will be spent at work, who your coworkers are can be important. Having a team you trust can be priceless, while having one you don't can be demoralizing. But dealing with a group of people you barely know, well, that might be the worst of all, and it's the reality for quite a few Fogo de Chao employees. According to staff members writing on a variety of platforms, having inconsistent workmates is a normal occurrence. One employee admitted on Glassdoor, "This place is a revolving door, new trainees every single week." This constant adjusting appears to be uncomfortable for more consistent members of staff, requiring continuous meetings of new faces, as well as struggling to find a pair of experienced, reliable hands for help on busy evenings. As soon as things finally get comfortable, out go another few employees while more newbies are thrown into the mix. Healthcare, dental, and a 401k are all things many of us might expect when landing a full-time job. But an insurance package for our furriest of friends? Now that's a surprise. According to the benefits section on both Indeed and Glassdoor, Fogo de Chao offers its employees full-on pet insurance as part of its employment benefits package. Just like a regular health insurance program, pet insurance typically functions as a plan. The consumer pays into it every month in exchange for coverage of certain veterinary costs, procedures, or medications for their animals. There are generally 3 different types of pet insurance plans: an accident plan, an accident and ailment plan, and finally, the preventative plan, which usually takes care of routine shots and panels.
Each year, 1 in 3 pets needs some type of emergency care, and those visits are never cheap.
While it's not confirmed which type of plan Fogo offers its employees, many folks have experienced an expensive veterinary bill at least once or twice in their lives. So it's probably a welcomed perk for Fogo de Chao employees. Paid time off is valuable for employees across all industries. Knowing you can take a few days away from work if something happens, and not having to stress about whether or not the bills will get paid, can be a huge weight lifted off your shoulders. Without paid time off, employees may feel they have to go in, even when they really shouldn't. According to Clockify, 89% of Americans believe that PTO is an important part of employment, and 72% of working people in the US had access to it in 2022. But despite these numbers, Fogo de Chão remains without one. As claimed by employees on Indeed, all vacation time for part-timers and full-timers is unpaid. If a server is faced with a family emergency, or if they just simply want to plan a fun family trip, it may well mean taking a pay cut to do so. A work permit, which allows a person to seek legal employment and wages in a foreign country, is an extremely important form of documentation in the United States. It's technically illegal to work without one, so many businesses in the US require a valid permit to hire a non-citizen, or sometimes a citizen in certain cases. Businesses don't necessarily have to do this. One of the companies that reportedly turns a blind eye is none other than Fogo de Chão. According to multiple employees on Indeed, the chain doesn't ask prospective staff members to present an active work permit, and the restaurant reportedly doesn't perform background checks on potential workers either. One former employee quipped on Indeed, "Felons can work here." It's no secret that being bilingual will make you more marketable. While Spanish, Arabic, and Chinese are the most spoken second languages in the United States, none of these will impress your higher-ups at Fogo de Chão. The only language CEOs are interested in here is Portuguese, the national language of Brazil. According to employees, understanding Brazilian culture and speaking Brazilian Portuguese is not only highly preferred, but might be your only shot at promotion. One worker wrote on Indeed, "If you speak Portuguese, then there is a good chance you'll be promoted in a week. If you're just an English-speaking person, you're less likely to get noticed."
We're an authentic Southern Brazilian steakhouse, so we try to bring the culture from South Brazil to the U.S.
Seeing as Fogo de Chão's website has a language tool for customers and employees, learning Portuguese culinary phrases is quite possibly a necessity when it comes to working for the steakhouse chain. Though some might view the language preference as a bit overboard, it's more than understood. Maintaining culture and heritage through food is something many chefs are passionate about, and hearing Portuguese being spoken in the restaurant only enhances the experience.